beautiful, awakened, and evolving souls. Welcome to the Space and Time. My name is Gabriel Lugo, and here I will be talking from self to self. Today I want to talk about a word that seems to be shrouded in a lot of mystery and mysticism, actually, because we're talking about something that is, to a degree, unachievable, something that is not, or it was not meant for us. And through time and the way we have been raised, it seems that it's something that is not reachable for the majority of us, and that is enlightenment. You see, if you're like me, you grew up in a society that puts spirituality on a pedestal and leaves us peasants to the mundane revolutions of life and just carrying life on our shoulders. So I know this is a collective idea. It's a group mentality that we have developed to see anything spiritual as something that is not for the low people like us, and is only reserved to masters and people who have paid a long price of devotion and a gift, a divine gift, to become enlightened. And so we have very few of them, and most of them are dead. And so we can revere them even more, because in death, something funny happens with the individual. There seems to be a wider appreciation of what the person is. And this is why we have the phenomenon of artists who somehow become much more famous after they die, because their work is appreciated fully. And the same thing seems to apply to these enlightened beings. And to be alive is to be a sinner, to be somebody not worthy of this. And so you can imagine how this affects the common mind, the common person that feels an ordinary individual who lives a simple life. And so enlightenment is something that is far beyond the reach of people like us. But as it is my desire, I like to demystify these things and to bring it to a practical level, if only to be humble and honest with ourselves when we understand these concepts or these states of mind. We can still analyze it and say, well, at least it's not that which I thought it was, and it's something that's already there. And that's what we're talking about when we discuss enlightenment. Because enlightenment is the simple realization that you are the you that you consider yourself to be is actually divinity expressing in a very particular way that defines you as the individualized portion of this universe, which we know is infinite. And so when we see that, and we, through many means, I like to use analogies for this. I like to use actual axioms that we can relate to. And it is so simple to realize that. And the only thing that becomes rather difficult is to stop thinking the way we have been thinking all our lives. And we can mix here the predominance of perception to create reality. And so depending on how we see the world and how we see the universe, is how our reality is going to be. So you see, the difficulty lies rather, again, in the notions that we have, in the concepts that we have, and anything else that makes up our perception. Because that is what's constructing our reality all the time. But going back to the nature of enlightenment, or the nature of divinity itself, you can take the simple axiom that the only thing we can imagine is infinity. Everything else is carved out of infinity. And so if we measure anything, which is our penchant in in the human body, in the human mind, we like to measure things. We like to calculate things. We like to think. Thinking is a way of measuring. Everything is measuring. And we take that and we say, well, infinity is being chopped into bits, information. And that is what we see. That is what we perceive. But we always come out of infinity. We cannot say that through finity, through the limitations of our mind, we can conceive something that is beyond infinity, because nothing is beyond infinity. Infinity is a concept that itself is its whole thing. And so for us to carve our reality out of infinity, we have to have a limited mind. This is a simple reasoning. It doesn't require a bachelor's degree or a PhD or not even kindergarten. Kids can understand this. And so, out of this infinity, we have multiplicity of perceptual things. And these things, although they seem separated, they seem individual objects. It's called objective reality. Even though they seem like that, we can intuitively see the connection of infinity as being the block, if you will, in which every single aspect is carved out of. So, what I'm trying to show you with this visualization is that we are all part of the same block, of the same infinity, no matter how different we look. And the reason why we look so different is because, well, that's the nature of infinity exploring itself. And the common thing that we all have is a word that is also not as shrouded in mystery as enlightenment, but perhaps confused in our language, which is limited as well. And that is consciousness. The word consciousness in our language, in the Western world, refers to a perception, refers to our ability to discern reality and to know that we exist. But consciousness goes beyond that. Consciousness, when analyzed by the seeker, and not by the mind, but by the seeker who wants to go down to the bottom of the essence of reality, is revealed as the ultimate reality. Consciousness is, in fact, what is making everything seem divided. Consciousness, infinite as it is what is making everything what it is, an objective reality. And to know that we are that even starting at the beginning stages of the seeker, the adept, and to know that we are consciousness. This is the answer to all of our questions about who we are. We are consciousness. And consciousness being the analog of infinity, and that is to put it in a very human language way, that consciousness is actually infinity. It is pure awareness that decides to explore itself, and in its infinite possibilities, it creates the limited mind, which is the one in which we see the world, how we perceive the universe. And so, to realize this is the beginning stages of enlightenment. And like I like to say it, I believe anybody who understands this has been enlightened. And so we take away the mysticism behind all of this. What it becomes is really a question of how much of this light that you now have, that you now possess, are you going to use to illuminate your path, illuminate your life? And the potential is, of course, infinite, because now you're wielding that light. You have that inner fire that never burns away. And with that, you can completely change your reality, because you start backtracking and noticing that your life has been, in fact, just a belief that you are something, that you are this thing that you were told you were, and you bought that story and you continue to feed it, you continue to tell it to yourself. And this is where letting go becomes the most important thing. This is the process in which you question everything, and at the doors of, or the gates of these questions, you will find guardians of fear that will prevent you from questioning your own nature, because these guardians have been strengthened by your own ability to maintain that story. But it is imperative that you question everything about you, that you question even the most obvious elements that seem to define you. And you will find that when you do this, somehow there is no loss. There's actually a gain, which we call liberation. It's almost like you leave behind your old belief and you gain another portion of the universe within your identity. It's like you abandon certain limitations to allow for the expansion. So you gain an expansion and you lose limitations by doing this process of letting go everything. This is a little bit more obvious when it's forced, and we call these traumatic experiences that somehow present the opportunity for further enlightenment, for more self-realization. This can be the death of a loved one, or the loss of a job, or the breakup of a relationship, or anything else that simply changes our reality and forces us to let go of those things. Enforcing because there is no choice. However, the same mechanism is at play, and this mechanism is the one of questioning and finding out that you were never that. You were just attached, as it were, to this concept of yourself that you were. And so letting go becomes the most important thing in this path, and it allows you to rediscover or reveal that self in you that is much more relaxed, and you stand aside from the old notions of who you thought you were. The ego becomes deflated. And this, to me, brings up the process of mastery. Mastery of the self. There is nothing we can become more adept or skillful, if you will, than the self, who you are. And self-inquiry becomes the modus operandi for your life, because you start questioning everything. And this is not the type of questioning for rebellious attitudes or for becoming something of an opposite, but rather a unifying of opposites. This is the self-inquiry that reveals that you cannot be something without creating an opposite from yourself. And so this mastery of the self becomes the ability of see yourself as nothing. And with that nothing, and again, this is not the nothing of the depression state in which you feel that you are the most separate thing in the universe and that nothing relates to you. Quite the opposite. This is the nothing that involves everything, because something needs to come out of nothing. You see, you cannot have one without the other. And so this is the nothing in which, this is the creative nothing, which you are, is the silence between my words, and is the interval between the waves. This is the creative silence, and you become more that. This is, to me, the signpost of mastery of the self, in which you don't stop identifying because it is the way to somewhere, but rather because there is no other choice. There is no identity in which you can feel comfortable by knowing that you are creating an opposite. So you cannot have something that you call yourself without another self popping out, and that other self needs to be different from you. And you can see how this process starts to create a mentality of unity. And you see, I'm using the word mentality from mind, which is limited, approaching unity. This is the best and only way in which we can evolve towards infinity, which is the ultimate goal. And again, I don't want this to sound like there is a goal and we need to go towards that. We just simply need to reveal it within yourselves. There is no path. In fact, I would even dare to say, and the vast majority of you know me for my law of one interpretation, that with all property I can say that the evolution through the densities of consciousness is in fact an illusion. It is as real as we want it to be. However, it is a system of illusions, as Ra calls it, and rightfully so. They are pretty much aware of how this is a system of illusions. When they talk about third density, they call our illusion the illusion in which we are invested at this time. And when they talk about the octave, they call the system of illusions. Now, how is this possible if the creation is real? Well, because from the perspective in which we're talking about it, we are saying that this is a system of illusions that we buy into for experience, for the simple fact of experience. And it's a beautiful one because it creates an infinite possibilities of experiences. Yet when we're focusing our attention to the one infinite creator, we are looking not at a creation, but at a creator. And that's why the one infinite creator is called that. It is the one creator, because there are no two, and it's infinite in all of its possibilities. And so this is the inward gazing that we refer to when we talk about mastery of the self. And now, the last thing I would like to share today is that there is still a sense of self, of an individual self that is exploring, that is doing things, that is aging, that is approaching a point of death and having experiences in third density and so on. This is all, again, part of the creation, part of the exploration. And you, as the individual portion of the creation that is experiencing itself, you can consider yourself as a micro universe. Ra likes to call it the microcosm of the macrocosm. And so when you look at yourself as an individual creation or an individual universe, you can see that not only are you a universe, an octave in evolution, 7 densities that are in the process of evolution by experiencing everything through you. And sure enough, when we talk about this in the model of the law of one, we see that the microcosm is evolving within the macrocosm. And this is a holographic display of the evolution of creation. It is you evolving along with the rest of the universe, and there are smaller portions of you that are evolving in the same way within your energy centers and so on. But not to get into the abstract, what I want to leave you with is with something poetic, perhaps. But look at yourself as a universe that is evolving, and all your experiences, everything that has happened to you is part of this evolution, and you rightfully categorize those experiences within the energy centers that make up your consciousness. Your consciousness is divided in 7, and that awareness, rather, is being experienced by all these possibilities and lens. It's a lens in which you see reality. But this is the micro universe that you are, and you are evolving in it. When you look at other people, you see their universes. This is the multiverse. We scientists like to look for the physical multiverse that exists out there, and we're bumping into each other, literally, as we interact with reality. We are interacting with different portions of the micro-universes in formation. And to keep it simple and direct, for my last message here, is the people that you find, the other self that we look at, they are their own universe. They are not more evolved or devolved than you. They are simply universes that are going through the motions of exploring themselves. And you can see the multiplicity of universes that can be created. In fact, the infinite amount of universes that can be created. These are called logos in our model. More appropriately, sub-logos, which is us. And we explore each other in this way. We are this universe in our own right, in our own free will of creating everything within ourselves. And the beauty of it is that we can interact with others. We can exchange energy with them in the same way I am exchanging energy with you, the listener, as I share the inner workings of my universe with yours. And in our own free will, we can always accept or reject In fact, this is not something that happens consciously. This is something that happens subconsciously through the roots of the mind, and allow the individual self to integrate or not the information that is given, because you yourself are complete. You yourself are whole. This is what being holy means. And it's all more beautiful because of that. As you become aware of the infinity within you, that universe that you are, you become more aware of your nature, and you transcend this reality. And as you transcend this reality, you provide it to the one infinite creator that we all are. This little gift that we're creating here is for the one infinite creator that, again, is not a separate being benefiting from all our hard work. It is ourselves, and we're simply disguised as bubbles of universe that we all represent. So this is the beauty of the universe. This is the beauty of being an entity like we are. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being part of this. I hope this was helpful for your universe. And with nothing else to say, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.